Hi, my name's Leanne Picard. I am the COO at Juris Digital, and I'm here to talk to you today about the local services ads from Google, also known as home services ads, also known as Google guaranteed ads. But the question we want to answer today is, are local services ads worth it for your law firm, and should you run them, and why? A couple questions I want to answer as well is what are LSAs specifically? Are they worth it for your firm? Are LSAs better than Google Ads? Or Google Ads better than local services ads? How to get started if you've never ran an LSA and how to set that up. And if you have a current LSA that already running, how to optimize that properly. And then the last but not least is the do's and don'ts of what I deem important to do and what I deem important to not do for your LSAs. Before I really dive into LSAs, I want to answer kind of and show you one question, which is how do law firms actually get on Google? And I know this question is being answered in multiple different facets through this conference, but a couple things I want to share with you is how this affects leads and what the difference is of how to run leads per paid ads and organic rankings. So the first two organic avenues of bringing leads to the door is organic search, which is what SEO brings to the table. It helps you rank differently in different positions on those leads. They're free leads that come through the door. You don't pay for those leads. It's competitive, which means it takes time for you to rank well. Personal injury specifically, or if your area is competitive, depending on how many law firms are trying to compete for those same types of keywords. And also it takes time to gain visibility in that position. So organic search, Google My Business is a local search, meaning if you have a specific area of location, like if you're in Houston, if you're in Tampa, you're going to have a Google My Business that shows up in that map pack. This is also an avenue for free leads. It's limited features on what you can put in the backend and actually show to the customers of what information it gives you about your firm. It offers visibility in that map pack and also takes time to gain visibility as well. So organic search and Google My Business are two free avenues to drive leads to your business, but take time to gain visibility in doing that. The two ad-specific realms of bringing leads to your door are Google Ads, which is a pay-per-click model. If someone clicks that ad, you're going to spend money in order to gain a lead. So if someone clicks on the ad, you're going to pay for each click that happens. If it's spam, qualified leads, unqualified leads, you're going to be charged per click for that. This can be competitive depending on if your practice area is personal injury, divorce lawyer, DUI lawyer, criminal defense, like all these certain types of keywords people are going to put in. It can be really competitive depending on your area. So sometimes if you're in a Houston area searching for a personal injury lawyer, it's going to be more expensive than maybe a suburb or a different smaller little town in Texas. I always tell my clients specifically, if if they're running Google Ads and it's a beginning campaign or it's a new ad campaign, just be patient for 2 to 3 months for consistent volume and consistent leads. Just to give Google that time to propagate those leads, make sure our positioning is a little bit more stabilize those costs per leads, click volume, various avenues to make sure that we are getting consistent results from there. After the 2 to 3 months, we'll have enough data to basically change, increase, and make changes according to those Google ads. Local services ads, which is what we're talking about through the rest of this presentation, is a pay-per-lead model, meaning you pay for every lead that comes through the door. It's very different than Google Ads because you're paying per click. So if someone clicks that ad, you have a cost associated to that click. It's a pay-per-lead. So anybody that is doing a phone call or a message through that, you're going to be charged per lead versus if someone clicks that lead or clicks that little box that I'm going to show you in a couple slides, you're not being charged for that. You're only being charged for when someone calls you. Similar to Google My Business, there is limited flexibility, limited features that we can show through that ad. We don't get a lot of flexibility with budgets. We don't get a lot of flexibility or any flexibility with keyword search, which helps us rank in those different categories and positioning of those ads. But the benefit of local services ads is it offers visibility at the top. So you're going to hit that top spot of search as soon as that keyword is put in. And again, I tell clients to 2 to 3 months time frame to really see constant results. Bringing in constant lead volume and seeing good data that we can pull from and make changes from there. 2 to 3 months, again, only if you're just running, it's a brand new campaign or you're just running new ads. 2 to 3 months is what I give that time frame. Outside of that, you have enough data to make executive decisions on those types of volume of the ads. So let's jump right into it. So what are local service ads? As I said in the beginning, local services ads were probably in 2018, maybe before that, they were doing tests on and running local services ads. So they've been around for a while, but they've been named something else. They were named home services ads, and they were for like plumbers or HVAC services, and running different types of things related to service-based businesses. Google Guaranteed means they had it was like a green checkbox for Google Guaranteed, making sure that you are a legit business, doing background checks and those things. So those avenues have been combined. So if you hear those terms kind of popping around, they're all the same thing. So local services ad is Google local service ads. It's home service ads. It's Google Guaranteed. All of these avenues are pretty much around the same thing, just different modifications as things have progressed, as local service ads have become more popular. As we go to the next slide, this kind of gives you a picture of what local services are. If you haven't seen them before, or if you have a question of what that looks like, local service ads are the paper lead. So again, if I'm clicking this square on the top of those three, I'm not going to pay for that click. But if someone were to click my ad and go in and call from there or send me a message, that's when I'm charged for the lead. The benefit of this is when I put that search query in, personal injury lawyer, I'm going to show up in those top results, in the very top search results, above organic rankings, above the traditional Google ads. And you're going to see that on the desktop version, it looks a little differently than the mobile version. So you're going to get 3 ads for that top spot on desktop. And the kind of positioning goes from local services ads, Google ads, map pack, organic rankings, and then you'll probably see another ad, Google ad at the very bottom on desktop. On mobile version, you're going to see that query is the same, but you're going to get 2 ads for local services ads, same format, a little differently, is you're going to see a couple of different Google ads, organic rankings, Google ads, organic rankings, Google ads, and it's going to be, at this point in time, an infinite scroll on Google. This is something they launched a few months ago, just kind of placing ads in different spots throughout that infinite scroll versus it being separate pages moving forward. But you still get that top positioning with local service ads. So if I jump in here real quick can just kind of live scroll. So this is the personal injury query. You can see those at the top there as far as those rankings. You can see that button for more personal injuries. You see that Google top 2 Google ads. There's the map pack going on right there. And then everything below that, you're going to start to see those organic rankings. So if we scroll back up to the top here, and if I click this more personal injury lawyers, you're going to start to see the competition kind of liven up here. So personal injury is very competitive. This is Tampa. You're going to start to see basically an endless scroll of all of the competitors in the area of Tampa competing against each other, right? So in personal injury, now you start to see that it's very competitive nowadays versus, in the middle of 2020 when this is just launched for personal injury lawyers in general. So that budget needs to be high to compete, but also that's not the only thing that gets you through the door there for positioning. So this is the next question that I get a lot is how does Google decide which LSA to display and when? A lot of people think it's budget that deems your ranking position or positioning of your LSA, but actually it's through 4 other avenues, which is proximity to the searcher, meaning if I'm in Tampa and I'm in the middle of Tampa and I search personal injury lawyer, anybody who's closest to me in proximity of location, that's who's going to show up in those top 3 spots or in a top ranking positioning. So proximity really, really matters with local services ads. Online reputation, meaning having a good business brand awareness on your Google My Business, making sure your LSA is filled out properly and done according to the rules of LSAs. And then reviews, right? So they care that you are having those reviews, new reviews coming through the door, good reviews coming through the door. In order to even run an LSA, you have to have a 3.0, I think, 3.0, 3.4 rating on your Google My Business to even run an LSA. So it's important to make sure that you have those reviews before even running LSAs and also adding to them over time. So it's very important also for SEO, but also for ads in general as well. And then the last but not least is engagement on your LSAs. So this means and is important because your LSAs are something that needs to be and have engagement on. You shouldn't let this sit there for a while and just kind of not be touched, right? Because you're being charged for those leads. But it's important to Google that you're actually responding to the leads that you're getting, being active within that LSA app, disputing leads, marking leads is important, making appointments if you are having appointments, signing leads, various things where you are engaging in that app, showing Google that, hey, I'm a legit company. I'm using this. I'm validating these leads. I'm disputing leads. I'm writing about these leads, and I'm moving forward into engaging on the LSA, and making a difference. So they care about those things. Another question I get to is which keywords actually trigger my LSA ads? This is a tricky question because we have no control over when our ads are placed. This is totally up to Google of when they want to show us in those top 3, in the list of leads. We're just going to bounce around. We actually tried to see if we could manipulate it and test the system by running a personal injury firm at $10K a week. They had, I think, 6 locations. So one location was set at $10K a week. And then we had other locations set to lower amounts and just kind of variety of different, weekly budgets. And some would show up and they would get a bunch of leads. Some would not get a bunch of leads. The 10K one would get some leads, but not enough to justify the budget there. So it was definitely a hit or miss and wasn't deemed by budget. So that wasn't necessarily something that manipulated or triggered the LSAs to populate up there. What does trigger the LSA is searches deemed to the LSA category. So if you're a personal injury lawyer, you're going to have someone coming in and type personal injury lawyer, they're going to see your ad. If you have on the back end selected the type of cases you want, like car accident, motorcycle accident, dog bite, those keywords are also going to trigger your ads to show as well. But if you're a personal injury lawyer and your LSA is set up for personal injury, you're not going to show up for divorce lawyer type keywords. So those sort of things trigger your LSAs to populate. One thing I want to clarify too is that when leads come through, so say on your back end of your LSA, you want to receive car accident, motorcycle accident, dog bite cases only. And you don't want like slip and fall, med mal, and all of those cases. So you can mark and trigger those to be turned on. Some clients come to me and they're like, well, why am I being charged for slip and fall cases if I don't want those cases? Sometimes if people type in personal injury lawyer, you're still going to receive those cases you don't want because they're typing in a generic term and it still may be a slip and fall case and you still may receive that. But that is something that you can dispute because you're not trying to get those cases. So you can dispute those cases to Google and say, this is not something I'm targeting for. And it's up to Google and if they're going to give you the money back for that. But there is an opportunity where you can try and get the money back for those specific keywords if you're not targeting those cases. I'll pop down here. So the big question, are local services ads worth it for your firm? Absolutely. 100%, 150% agree that they are worth it for any beginning law firm, any beginning lawyer going solo on their own, any type of law firm as far as categories go. I think it's something that doesn't create a risk for you. There's no cost associated. If you sign up by yourself, there's no obligation to run the ads long term. There's no commitment really from you that you need to run the ads. The onboarding process is a bit cumbersome. It's tiring as far as like the amount of work that goes into setting that up. I would highly suggest hiring an agency to set you up for that. But again, there's no accrued cost that are associated except for the cost per lead if you are running this on your own and doing local services ads for yourself. Just a couple of notes I wanted to mention is these calls are recorded, so you can dispute the leads. There is a message that pops up in the beginning of the message to the user saying it is being recorded, so they're aware of that. You have the ability to dispute charged leads if they're a bad lead, or if they're just not a fit, or if they're targeting duplicate leads. You can dispute those charged leads and get your money back. And then no fees to participate in the leads. You only pay for the leads, so pay per lead type of ad. And then a couple of things is low lead costs are associated to local services ads, meaning if you spend $80K on personal injury key terms for Google ads, you may pay only $150 per lead and spend way less and get more qualified leads from LSAs. It kind of depends on your budget, depends on your competitive areas, depends on your intake process. A lot of those depend on what that lead volume is, how much you're going to cost, and if you're going to get leads from that. As far as if it's worth it for your firm, they are fairly easy to manage on your own, but time consuming, right? So you need to listen to every single call that comes in. You need to know what's happening with those leads. You need to document those on the back end. So some people do choose an agency to create that process for them and manage that process, but it is something you can do and totally easy to manage on your own. So another big question here is LSAs or Google Ads? Which one's better, right? That's the question. Or is there one that's better or not? My opinion is LSAs have a lot of benefits. Google Ads have a lot of benefits as well. So LSAs are the first thing potential clients see as a Google results page, meaning it's the very first thing that's going to happen on mobile and desktop. So it's very important above Google Ads. LSAs are a pay-per-lead model versus Google Ads being a pay-per-click model. LSAs, you can't leverage budget to improve ad placement like you can on Google. I can say I want to spend this much in a daily range and it can boost up my ad placement. Or I can say I only want to target the top, areas, first set of ads, and then that deems my ad placement. So there are ways within Google Ads that you can leverage budget to manipulate ad placement. The placement of your LSAs relies heavily on proximity, so how close people are. Very relevant to local SEO type avenues as far as Google My Business, and that's something that's new with that as well. LSAs are potentially lower than the cost of lead of what you're going to be paying in Google Ads. To get approved for LSAs, it is a bit of an extensive application process. It just got easier, actually. You're not always, well, not all locations, but a lot of locations, you don't even have to do background checks anymore. So that's something that has improved that process to be a little easier and more fluid. So the real question is, what should I invest in my law firm? Local services ads or pay-per-click ads or Google ads or PPC ads? My opinion is that I think law firms should do both. I think you should have as much real estate as possible on that search results page. I think you should be absolutely 100% investing in SEO to show up for organic rankings, Google My Businesses. Also have your PPC ads in the map pack. Make sure you're dominating that spot under the local services ads and ranking as high as you can on the LSAs. So if you're dominating as much real estate as possible, you're really getting the most opportunity out of your money that you are investing and taking up the most real estate as you can. Another way we decided to answer this question was we wanted to see, kind of from a study on LSAs, PPC, and also organic rankings as well. So we ran a study not too long ago and asked the question, how does the presence of LSAs in Google search result in the impact of consumers who are clicking to find a lawyer, right? So how does the presence of LSAs in Google search results impact where legal consumers are clicking when they search for a lawyer? So what are those results? What are the findings? So we did 3 types of click studies. Three queries we searched was personal injury lawyers, divorce lawyers, and DUI lawyers. So the first thing we're going to look at is the personal injury lawyer. So someone typed in personal injury lawyer. This is the heat map of where they clicked. As you can see, 32% of these people clicked local services ads. 10% clicked Google ads. 30% clicked MapPack, and the rest are organic or related searches. So again, Google ads still takes a spot in the MapPack ad. So it's important to note that, but also your organic rankings are huge in the MapPack. So just know that people are moving through and still searching those things. And if you see this red area too, right under the local services ads, that's a little button for local services ads. It's called more personal injuries, or, if you search divorce lawyers, it's going to be more divorce lawyers. With that, that's showing that big long list of all the leads that are competing for those terms. So just because you're not on the top 3 doesn't mean that people are not seeing your firm on that local services ad. The next one is divorce lawyer. 26% of those searches clicked the local services ad. A lot clicked that first one. A lot clicked the more divorce lawyers. Google ads had 22%, so a little higher there. MapPack ads had 26%, so same as the local services ads, so the good split there. And then organic is high for divorce lawyers. The next one is the DUI lawyer. Local services ad was at 42%, which is huge, right? Is just mind-blowing of good data for this. And then Google ads is at 14%, and MapPack is at 24%, and the rest, kind of shimmy off there. So just a good data of importance of local services ads, Google ads, and the MapPack, making sure you are ranking well and doing good in those avenues and running ads specifically to get those clicks. Some key takeaways from that study: the presence of LSAs drastically reduced the organic result clicks, meaning they're clicking that local services ad first, and then it kind of trickles down throughout the way down the page. Google Maps remains a crucial source of visibility and traffic for lawyers, meaning it's important. Organic rankings still matter. Making sure your Google My Business is optimized, making sure you're ranking well there, because it does matter. Making sure that Google ad has a MapPack ad in there, because that matters as well when running Google ads. And majority of LSA clicks went to the more link right under that to find a specific law firm in general. So again, another just note here, should you invest? Let me speak again. So again, what should I invest in for my law firm? LSAs or PPC ads? And again, my answer is still the same through the study. Both. I think you should be doing both. for those to take up as much real estate as possible. If you have the budget, do both. If you don't have the budget and you're just like, I don't have a lot of money to spend here, I would probably go LSAs and do a small call campaign or some little campaign in a PPC or Google ad if it's beneficial for your area. Depending on the competition, you could probably get better off Google ads, depending on your budget, depending on competition, depending on your law firm, your intake system. All of those avenues are important. So, how to get started with LSAs. So, if you're not running LSAs, this is important for you to kind of walk through, and I can walk you through that process of what you should be thinking about and talking about and preparing for when setting up an LSA. And then, if you already have an LSA, this is relevant too, making sure you're set up properly and that, it's important that you're optimized properly for those LSAs as well. So the first step in setting up your LSA is to confirm your eligibility. Confirming your eligibility is what will deem important into even running an LSA. Maybe your law firm does a specific type of law that isn't available just yet. Maybe there's a weird thing in your zip code or your state that doesn't have a specific type of specificity for your law firm. Make sure you're confirming your eligibility before you plan for that budget with an agency, or if you're preparing for those things, you can check out to see if you are eligible. Do you have a Google My Business? LSAs are related to each other. They work off of each other. So it's important to know if you have a Google My Business, how many locations do you have? If you have 3 locations, do you want to run an LSA for each of those? You need to set up an LSA for each location and not just run one LSA for all of them. You want to take up as much real estate as possible and cover as much ground as possible as well. So how many locations? How many LSAs do you want to set up per LSA? And that your Google My Business needs to have a certain amount of stars in order to be eligible to run an LSA. So I tell clients usually, I think the correct area is a 3.0, but I try to say 3.5, 4 stars is high or higher to run that. If you're a new firm and you don't have if you just started with Google My Business and you don't have a lot of reviews, get one review. Get one good, solid review. That's enough to cover that rating so you can be eligible to run an LSA. Practice area eligibility, again, just making sure that you have a practice area that is eligible. Sometimes you could, be a certain lawyer and have a specific, job type or certain practice area that's not necessarily in the queue just yet. So just make sure you have all the areas covered within your LSA before, pouring a bunch of money into it and going through this whole application onboarding process. And then 2 things I like to tell clients just to make sure so they can have the most success with their LSAs is, are you available to check leads? If you're with an agency at the end of the month, are you able to tell me how many leads you signed, how many to dispute? And then do you have an intake process? Do you have an intake process set up? Do we need to set you up one? Like, how does that work? And answering those questions will help make this process smoother for you, for the agency, and just the process of making sure that your LSAs are getting the most benefits as possible. So the first step is, after you've checked your eligibility, create that Google My Business, create that business profile within your LSA. You're going to set up that business name. That's going to be your legal business name. Excuse me. And then the business phone, what I like to tell clients, we use CallRail for call tracking services. If you have a tracking system, set up a specific number to put in your LSA so you can actually track all those calls. Calls that are less than 30 seconds are not going to be shown or paid for, meaning you're not going to see anything less than 30 seconds, and you're not going to pay for those leads if it's less than 30 seconds. But I like to tell my clients, we want to see all the leads that come through. And one way to do that is with CallRail or tracking phone tracking service to do that. And then the next part, business website. So it's optional, but with law firms, I would highly suggest putting something in here. And how I would optimize this is if your LSA, let's say you're in Tampa, you're setting up your LSA in Tampa, and you have a page that's deemed for Tampa. So your personal injury lawyer, send that traffic from the LSA directly to that Tampa page versus just your generic homepage. Make sure they're getting value when they hit that page. They're not just going to a main homepage with like multiple different locations. Make sure your LSA is linked to that specific area. And then once you create the account, you're going to get asked, it's going to ask you for job category. You're going to put law, and then you're going to select your practice areas. So what practice areas do you want to put on your LSA? Maybe you do personal injury and estate law, or maybe you just do personal injury. This is where you can select those practice areas and figure out which types of cases that you want. And on the right here, you can see where we can toggle on and off which practice areas we want and what cases we want to receive. So this is kind of tying back to what I was saying earlier. When we toggle on these specific areas and we toggle off certain areas, we can deem those cases to our door. So if someone types in auto accidents, car accidents, truck accidents, they're going to see our ad. But again, if we don't want dog bite cases, if someone types in personal injury, they're fishing for a lawyer for dog bite case, you still will get that lead through the door. But if it's a bad case, or if you don't take it, you could potentially dispute that case and get your money back. As we continue forward, once you finish that profile, you're going to be put into a business verification. So this goes through each of these sections. So a headshot for the ad, who do you want that face to be right off the bat? That specific lawyer needs to have a license, so you can fill out those sort of things. So if you're a new lawyer coming out of college and you haven't passed the bar or got your bar license just yet, but it's in the works or you're pending, LSAs wouldn't be able to be done and signed up for until that happened. Background checks are just kind of got changed the last, I think, month or two. I did a couple, and background checks are not necessarily required anymore. So that process made it a little quicker to get through the onboarding system. Some states are still requiring it with insurance, but I've seen a lot not accepting or having to do background checks. Make sure you do customer reviews as far as making sure you just select a link. I, on the front end of this, just through the verification process, until I'm verified, I usually set my budget to the lowest budget possible, just to give me some wiggle room of moving up that budget and not setting my low bar to be capped in any way by Google. Your billing information is your credit card info, and then lawyers, this is where you're going to repeat adding the top lawyer license into your lawyer, but also adding any other lawyers that are in your firm as well. Inside your profile, it's important to set up that lawyer services, health and safety for COVID, also for both lawyer and personal injury or practice area. And then your business bio, doing it for the lawyer and the personal injury or practice area for that. So make sure you're doing both. Basically 4 elements in there and selecting 6. So filling that business profile up as much as we can. And the big one, how to set your budget and what does that budget, what does the budget look like really? In just starting out in LSAs, I always try to do the budget at the lowest possible, and I set it to maximizing leads. So this gives me full ample opportunity to see what I'm going to come out the gate with, what Google's doing, where I'm sitting at, how many leads I'm going to get. And it kind of just gives me a baseline to adjust budgets, adjust positioning, play with bid modes, see what my cost per lead is going to be. So coming out of the gate, just launching a brand new LSA, this is something I would set up And then if you are already running LSAs for a while, you can keep going with that. I do suggest maximizing the leads if you aren't getting many leads from the max per lead, and adjusting those as well, and increasing the budget so you don't cap out and bounce to the bottom of those leads. The budget, if the budget does run out, if you cap out on your weekly lead volume or you hit your monthly budget, your ad does go all the way down to the very bottom until your budget releases for the next week or the month after that. And then I wanted to show here just the back end of their LSA specifically. So this is just the back end of the profile. You have the headshot for the ad. You have all the other attorneys. We just started adding these, so they're a little pending right now. And then if you click this, this is where making sure that you are filling out all these avenues. And then making sure you're taking customers and that your business hours are all selected to appropriate business times. And then your budget, making sure you're set up properly there. You're currently in the right bidding mode, at least for running things new or, getting more leads. There is a way that you can see what the least amount of budget to spend is. So if you type in this $100 or whatnot, you're going to see that the budget was $450, and now you have no max. So there's a minimum, but no max. And then I'm going to go over here and show you the lead volume. So here we see all the active leads, and then we have all the archived leads there. And then if I go to my my reports, I can see here in October, I had 14 leads that were charged and I spent $3,700, but I disputed all of these leads and I'm going to get back $2,700 in expected credits. So those are all my disputed leads. I see I disputed 10 leads, 4 phone calls, and then my lead cost per lead is $255.21. And this shows when I received those leads. So a big important one is lead management. This is where you need to have someone managing your lead volume. So something I couldn't show you in the live video was when you click those active leads. So those are current leads that are through the door that I need to look through or, make notes on or listen to those calls. Once we click those leads, it's going to take us to the lead summary. So it's going to tell us when we received the lead, what the lead phone number was, and we have to write in that customer name and the notes from that call. So you can see that recorded little video. Here, let me move my picture here. So you can show that recording. You can change the name of the customer name. You can mark booked if you sign that lead, or you can dispute all in that lead summary for that specific case. And this is really where that bread and butter comes in about making sure you're engaging in the account, making sure you're doing, what needs to be done in the account. Customer names changed, notes made, disputes happen, archives going on for leads you've already listened to, haven't booked or disputed, signed leads, booked leads as far as appointments go. All of this is important to make sure this is managed properly. And then my list of do's and don'ts. My do's and don'ts. So check leads. I've harped on this the whole time, but check your leads daily and mark them. Make sure you're engaging in your accounts. Do that. It's important. It's valuable to your LSAs and making sure you're showing up and getting the value out of what you're putting in as far as money goes. Use a tracking number for the business phone number. This can be changed if you don't have this set up right now, but you have to call, sit on hold, and work through this. But make sure you set it up properly from the beginning so you don't have to do that and spend time, on the phone, sitting there on hold, trying to get these things changed. So check leads daily, tracking number in place so we can track those leads. Dispute leads that you aren't paying for, meaning make sure that if you don't sign a case or if it's a bad lead, You're disputing that, so you're not paying for it. You don't want to pay for anything that you don't need. And then dispute leads that aren't relevant, right? So there is a thing going on where there's duplicate leads coming in and you're being charged for multiples of those. Make sure that you are listening to those leads and getting the value out of those disputes, because as you saw before, we received $2,700 from that video of disputed leads. So we got our money back because we're actively in there disputing leads and making sure we're listening to those calls and gaining that value back. That way we're not wasting 22 grand, or we're wasting money on leads that aren't relevant for our firm. And my big don't, and this is debatable amongst others, but I haven't found this useful. And do not, in my opinion, ask for reviews from the LSA dashboard, right? So Google likes for you to do that. I would highly suggest not doing it. Why? Is because you can ask for those same reviews from Google My Business. And those Google My Business reviews will populate the LSA. So it won't duplicate over. It won't, you won't lose those reviews if you get it on the Google My Business. So say you got a bunch of reviews on the LSA side and you turned off that LSA, that's not going to show on Google My Business. It doesn't work the other way, but Google My Business works that way. So reviews from Google My Business push to LSAs. Reviews from LSAs do not, at this current time, push to Google My Business. So it's important making sure that you're getting those reviews and sharing that link from Google My Business versus doing it from the LSA side. And that brings me to the close of my presentation. I really appreciate you guys sitting through me harping on local services ads and hearing me out. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns with your current LSAs, or if you have questions on optimization of your current LSAs, or if you're interested in starting LSAs. I'm happy to walk through that with you, help you get set up properly, and make sure your account's managed like it should be. My email address is here, lpicard@jurisdigital.com. I work with Juris Digital, so you can always find me there on our website as well. But any way we can help your firm do better, get more leads through the door, that's what I care about. I care about the signed leads. I care about the cases that are coming in, the qualified leads. I don't care about just getting traffic. I want to know how many signed leads we're getting and putting your money to use in the better ways possible. So thank you for your time, and I really appreciate your everything. Feel free to drop some questions. I'm happy to answer and spend time answering those questions. Thank you.